G'day everybody. Today I'm going to be doing my top 5 favourite World War II tanks. Now keep in mind this list is my opinion, and if you have your own opinion on where or what tank should be on this list, or even if my order is incorrect, please leave it in the comment section below. I would love to hear your opinions on what's your favourite tanks, and also why is it your favourite tank. Alright, so let's get on with the list. Number 5, the Churchill. The Churchill was a heavy infantry tank built by the British. Now the British built mainly two types of tanks: infantry tanks that were designed to be heavily armoured and were also known to be slow. This was because they would move up with the troops helping to support them, so they didn't need to be fast for this. The second type of tank that was mainly built was the cruiser type of tanks. These tanks were light tanks. These tanks used their speed to flank and also attack the supply lines and communication. Now the Churchill had all-round tracks on a large body. This gave the Churchill the ability to climb steep slopes. The Churchill's body was used for this particular reason to make a lot of specialist vehicles. This includes one of them which would actually lay bridges. It had a bridge built on top of it, which would then fold down across gaps or to even climb up different things for other tanks that had issues with it. Now the main weapons on the Churchills was the quick-firing 2-pound gun. This was on the Mark 1 and the Mark 2. The Mark 3 and 4 had the 6-pounder quick-firing gun. The 6 and 7 had the 75mm one. And 5 and 8 had the 95mm one. The average speeds of the Churchill was 15mm, which also was its top speed as well. As stated, it wasn't a very fast tank, but it didn't need to be with its armour. Number 4. The Panzer 38, aka Hetzer. The Hetzer was a light tank destroyer based on a modified Panzer 38T body. The Panzer 38T was an interesting tank in the fact that it was a Czechoslovakian developed tank that was adopted by the Germans after they annexed Czechoslovakia. The Hetzer was made due to the inability of the Germans to keep up demand for the Stug 3 and the Marauder series of tank destroyers. This was due to the Allied bombing efforts. The Hetzer performed better than it was expected, but yet was still extremely vulnerable. In saying that, its sloped armour and small size gave it much improved defence over its other tank destroyers. The main armaments on the Hetzer was a 7.5cm Pak 39 L48 gun. This was the same gun that was used on the Panzer IV. The top speed of the Hetzer was 42 km an hour, which was its main road speed as well. Number 3. The BT-7. The BT-7 was the last of the BT series of tanks to be built. The BT series was known as the fast tanks or cavalry tanks. The BT series of tanks were also very well known for being able to drive on their wheels, not just on their tracks. When they were on their wheels, they would steer with the front, getting power from the rear. The BT series of tanks were based on a design of the Christie tanks designed by J. Walter Christie, who failed to convince the US Army to adopt his Christie tank designs. However, a Soviet trade organization used their New York political connections to persuade the US military and civilian officials to provide the plans and specifications for the Christie tank. The Russians then used this to build the BT series of tanks. The BT-7 successor was the famous T-34, which is a much more famous tank than the BT-7. However, I personally like the BT-7, as the BT-7 set a record for jumping a tank over 42 meters. The main armament of the BT-7 was a 45mm. Now, its speed, it had a top speed of 86 kilometers an hour, but it averaged 72 to 86. Now, this is on the road. It had a lot slower speed on dirt and off the road. Number 2, the Sherman Firefly. Now the Sherman Firefly was an interesting tank in the fact that the Firefly combined both the American M4 and the British QF 17-pounder. This was the quick-fire 17-pounder gun. The Firefly got its name due to the fact that after firing the gun, a burst of fire and light would come out of the end of the gun. However, it was so bright that the crew would have to close their eyes, because if they didn't, they would be blinded temporarily. The top speed of the Sherman Firefly was only 25 miles per hour, however it could not hold this speed for very long. So its average travel speed was only 20 miles per hour. This was on the road. Number 1, the Panzerkampfwagen 8, the Mouse. The Mouse was the heaviest fully enclosed armoured fighting vehicle built during the war. 5 of them were ordered, however, out of the 5 ordered, only 2 hulls and 1 turret were ever completed. For the design of the Mouse, they went back to Ferdinand Porsche, who was one of the competing designers for the Tiger tank. However, his design was not chosen. The top speed of the Mouse was 20 kilometers an hour, but its average speed was only 18 kilometers an hour. The main weapon of the Mouse was a 128mm gun. This was the same gun that they used on the Jagdtiger. So that was my top 5. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, please leave a like on the video. Now, this is my personal opinion. However, if you think my list was incorrect, as in they should be changed around, or there was a tank that should have been on the list that wasn't, please do leave it in the description below. And please do write your explanation for why. Don't just say it was wrong because it was wrong. Please do explain your answers, because I would love to hear why people like certain tanks of this era. Now, in saying that, if you do leave it in the description below, I might create one later on specific tanks, whether this be heavies, or even on specific countries, this being American and German and maybe even Italian. So thank you for watching, and have a good day.